Now available from Desktop Images. The LightWave 3D Essentials Series, featuring special effects animator and LightWave Pro editor John Gross. This series takes you step by step through all of LightWave's powerful tools, including modeling, surfacing, animation, special effects, and more. Fundamental skills that are a must for any LightWave animator. The creative magic of Ron Thornton is unveiled by the master of CGI special effects himself. See how traditional production techniques are applied to computer graphics for modeling, surfacing, compositing, and special effects in broadcast and film production. Discover a variety of tips and tricks for creating explosive effects in pyrotechniques. Brad Peebler demonstrates the ins and outs of particle explosions, smoke trails, billowing fireballs, and fire image mapping, effects that add impact to your action. LightWave pioneer Tony Stutterheim reveals professional applications for animated logo design in pro-flying logo techniques. From building logo objects and time-saving tips and tricks, to creative motion and background treatments, powerful procedures for creating stunning 3D animated logos. All available now from Desktop Images.
Dear video professional, the elements of this videotape represent the work of creative professionals like yourself. Unauthorized duplication of this tape not only is a federal crime, but also contributes to the destruction of an industry that you helped create. Please do your part by not duplicating this videotape. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Newsbreak. In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the Video Toaster, the Video Toaster Flyer, LightWave 3D, and countless software and hardware accessories. Video Toaster inventor and NewTek president Tim Jennison had this to offer.
Toaster users are marked by not only their large numbers, but their creativity and entrepreneurship. They are not ivory tower artists. They are talented people who get things done every day of the week and make money at it.
The event was sponsored by Video Toaster User magazine and drew many longtime toaster professionals, as well as Hollywood celebrities.
I really don't know where to go when you look around at all these great, it's like a candy store here. All these great toys. I got my heart on it, set on a flyer, and of course the 4.0.
This has been a Newsbreak update. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to Flyer Advanced Techniques. I'm Stan Shumlick, and I'm going to show you some of the techniques that you just saw, as well as I'm going to show you how to use LightWave with your flyer to create some really dynamic special effects. So let's get started. Here's what the project looks like on the flyer interface. Although it didn't quite start out looking this complex, it started out much like all of us start out, with simply an empty page. So what I'm going to do is delete all of the croutons from the existing project and start over from the beginning. I've pre-digitized and preloaded some of the footage that I'm going to use. Since it's a good idea to go ahead and log all of your footage to know what you have, I already know what I have, so I've pre-cut these into clips on my drives. So let's pull a couple of these and begin sequencing. The first thing I'm going to do is go to my interface and select the drive which I have the clip stored, which is on my Video B drive. I also have them moved into their own subdirectory so they don't get confused with the alternate projects that I may be working on. So I'm going to double click on the folder and open up the Flyer Advanced area, and you'll see this is where it contains all of my footage. I start with the opening, which I'll go ahead and pull up now, and I'm going to start with one called Flyer Advanced Main, which is my main clip. These two clips in my interface represent the first advanced technique that I'm going to use in the tape. On camera, I had talent turn their head. So what I want to do is take advantage of the two-camera shoot of the talent turning from one camera and looking at the second camera. So let's set that up now. The first piece I need to select is the first clip. I'm going to select Controls, or I'm going to use the keyboard equivalent of F9 on the keyboard. I currently have my options set so that the Quick Tune menus come up, allowing me to adjust both audio and video simultaneously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the in-point scrub slider to scrub down in the video, and I'm going to listen to the takes that I want to use. Now I've pre-looked at this footage and know that somewhere around the second take is what I want to use. So we will go in and dial in approximately where the second take begins. So let's see, we'll try a play.
Hello, and welcome to Newsbreak. In Los Angeles, California today,
You'll see that my on-air talent actually turns his head during the portion of the opening. So what I want to do is I want to capture the portion of video from this segment where he's looking at the camera and as he begins to turn his head. So let's go back to the controls again and let's jog this up just a little bit. I want to get him just before he lifts his eyes, or actually I'd like to see him with his eyes looking up at the camera so that he's not looking away. I also want to look at the out point of his clip. Since we heard them yell cut, I can tell that by the look of this, I'm going to need to adjust just a little bit on the out point until he turns his head. You'll notice that I have a good point on my out point from where his chin actually dips down. This will be my cut point. So I'm going to go ahead and set my out point approximately where his chin first starts the impact point. I'm going to select continue since I want to use the audio and the video from this segment, but I'm going to go to fine tune first because I want to adjust the audio. The default value of 70 for volume is great for most applications, but since the voice of my talent will be the main source of audio information in my program, I want to go ahead and bring this up to 100%, since I want to be able to hear this and I know that this is going to be the main storytelling element that we're going to be listening to. I'm going to select continue and move on. Now I want to select our main camera, which is the one that talent talked to for the duration of the rest of our segment. And I need to set up the end point of the video approximately at the same point from the other camera where my talent turned his head and his chin dipped down. So I'm going to go ahead and select it on the interface and select controls. Again, this brings me up to the Quick Tune menu. I'm going to go ahead and grab the input slider and I'm going to play it down until I see talent turn and look my way. You'll see on my out point that he was looking towards camera number 2. His head dips down, his chin dips down, and then he begins looking at camera number 1. So I'm going to readjust this just slightly back until I can see that his chin is down approximately where I want it, and set that as my in point. I'm now going to go to my out point slider and see approximately where the first segment of my out point will end.
hardware accessories. Video
Okay. So my first segment is going to end roughly in here. I'm going to go ahead and play this just to make sure that it's correct. And we'll go ahead and select play and watch it.
In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the Video Toaster, the Video Toaster Flyer, LightWave 3D, and countless software and hardware accessories.
Well, now that I see where the out point is, I'm going to want to adjust it since it cut off the S in the word accessories. So I'm going to just tag it up just a little bit. Again, I'm just roughing in some of these elements, since you'll notice that this element that we just watched has a blank space over my talent's left shoulder. This blank space was shot this way on purpose, since this is where we're going to enter and use an effect called an over-the-shoulder plate, which we're going to map with live video and LightWave. We'll be getting to that in just a second. Right now, I need to go in and rough in my project so that I know approximately how long I'm going to want to perform this effect and this insert inside of LightWave. I'm going to do this for my entire project since I need to know the relationship of each one of the elements for each one of the effects that we're going to perform. So let's continue on. Now that I have my in point and out point, I'm going to continue on and do this for each one of the rest of my project segments. So now what I want to do, since I know that there are 3 statements contained within this single clip, I want to go ahead and clone this clip 2 more times, since I'm going to use each one of these to encompass each individual statement. So I'm going to go ahead now and set each statement for this. The next one I will select in order, select controls, and I'm going to move the slider down to where it meets the out point slider and begin moving my in point slider until I see the beginning of the next statement.
Video toaster.
So I can see that my next statement begins roughly a few seconds before. So I'll watch my talent, and then I'll go ahead and bring the next piece out. There's my second piece, and I'll select my third piece, moving this along, and move our endpoint down again. And we'll play in real time by holding down the right arrow key on the out point.
The event was sponsored by Video.
We'll see that we have another segment where he begins here. So we'll start on him when he's not talking and move our endpoint slider there. And then play in real time by holding down the left mouse button on the right arrow slider.
And drew many long-time toaster professionals.
And we'll let it continue to play out until we get to the end of the clip. And we'll just trim that up to the end. Now that I've set each one of my 3 statements, if I were to play these, they would play much like this. So let's go ahead and select play from the center of the screen, and when we're ready, we'll go ahead and hit play.
Hello, and welcome to Newsbreak. In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the Video Toaster, the Video Toaster Flyer, LightWave 3D, and countless software and hardware accessories. Video Toaster inventor and NewTek president Tim Jennison had this to offer. The event was sponsored by Video Toaster User magazine and drew many longtime toaster professionals, as well as Hollywood celebrities.
Now I have my 3 main body segments. I need to add my close on. So I'll simply grab my closing piece, and it's a head-on face shot, and we'll simply bring it to the beginning just before he begins to talk, and move our out point till just after he finishes talking and before his eyes go to the ground. Now that I have this segment set up approximately the way I want it to play in real time, I need to go ahead and add my B-roll to break up this talking head that's standing there. I also need to add my interviews from both Tim Jennison and Dick Van Dyke, which was my Hollywood celebrity. So I'm going to go ahead now and grab those video clips and begin to insert them. Because it's nonlinear, I can choose to add my segments anywhere that I want, and for the sake of this instructional tape, I'm going to go ahead and do it in a linear fashion. So we're going to start with the first segment that we want to insert video into. So I'm going to select the first segment that I cloned, that's my main segment, my main camera segment. I'm going to hit controls, and I'm going to take the video slider back a ways in the program because I want to listen and view my program material to see approximately where B-roll should be cut into my program, and look at my B-roll clip footage to see what kind of B-roll I have. I want to use clips that are going to be representative of what my on-screen talent is saying, so that the pictures help tell the story that the talent is speaking. So I'm going to go ahead and just play on the video segment and listen.
The event offered the latest in Video Toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the Video Toaster.
While listening to the playback here, I discovered there's a natural break in a sentence structure that would be a perfect place for me to cut out of looking at my on-screen talent and go to my cutaways of the people attending this conference. So I'm going to go ahead and move the slider back approximately where his break was. And there's approximately where his break was. So we'll go ahead and just play that segment right now by clicking on play.
In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the video toaster, the video toaster flyer.
You'll notice that
LightWave
my
3D,
video
and
screen went to
countless
black,
software
yet
and
the audio
hardware
continues to
accessories.
play. This is because we've set up a split edit for the audio segment of this piece of the program. So now what we need to do is select our B-roll video to go over the extended split audio. But what we need to do is we need to pay attention to the overall length of both the audio and video. And what we really need to pay attention to is the difference between the two here. And you'll see that between our times here we have approximately 10 seconds. So we're just going to keep in mind that however much B-roll video that we decide to use in our project is going to need to fill about 9.5 to 10 seconds worth of the audio that is extended beyond what the video picture for this clip is. So after selecting continue, I'm going to go back to my drive that contains all of my B-roll footage, and I'm going to select the various clips that I want to use for B-roll footage. So since I've already previewed these clips and I know what they're named, I'm going to use the keyboard equivalent of the right Amiga key to toggle my interface files view to read the actual name of the files, and I'm going to pull up the clips in order that I used them. So as I pull up each of these clips, I got to keep in mind that I'm going to shorten them to fill that approximately 9.5 to 10 second gap so that I have different pictures that go between my two static talking headshots. So let's find out. We got flyer number 11 and advanced B-roll number 5 and advanced number 9. Now that I have all of the shots in here, I need to shorten these shots to an approximate length. At this point, we can choose to do this a number of different ways. We can use one of the automated RX routines, which will allow us to cut to the beat of the crouton, and all we would need to do is set the endpoints for each one of our B-roll cuts, and then run the automated cut to the crouton function on our tools pull-down menu and tap the space bar, or we could go in and set an equal duration for each one. But since I'm trying to tell a story here, I've decided to go in and listen to what the actual statements being made by my on-screen talent are and approximate the cuts to fit with the video of what he's talking about so that it helps to tell the story. So the way I did this is I actually went in and selected each one of the clips, and we'll select the first clip and bring up its interface. So then what I want to do after I've opened this up is I want to select the approximate points I want to use. So I'm going to just scroll through here looking at my video footage to see a segment of the video that I want to use. It's a good idea to watch this in real time, but then again you can watch it in slow motion or in fast motion. Again, I want about 1.5 seconds for this cut, so I'm going to pull it down to about 1.5 seconds and just check the duration of play by selecting the play button. That's approximately where I want it. Maybe I'll shorten it just a little more just to have it about 1.33 seconds. Now that I have that selected, I'm going to want to go in and select all of the durations and times for the remaining clips. For the sake of time, I already know what the in and out points of these clips that I used are, and I want to select them very quickly. If you do know what the duration or the in and out points of the clips are because you've spent time and logged your footage, it's very easy to select all the clips and set them by using the numeric keypad. The way to do this is to hold down the Shift key on the keyboard and select each clip that you want to change. Once you have each one selected, simply select the Controls button or hit F9 on your keyboard, and it will bring up the either Fine Tune or Quick Tune adjuster. At this point, if you know the in and out points, you can select the in and out point numeric entry field here, which looks like a time code field, and simply type in the number that you want. So for this particular clip, I know that the opening frame is at 3 seconds and 10 frames, and you hit enter, and the in point will automatically jump to the position that you've noted. And the out point I know is going to be 0422. And I'll hit enter and it automatically jumps and gives me the segment length that I want. Selecting continue automatically brings up the next clip in the sequence for me to set the in and out point adjustments on. By selecting multiple clips and then selecting controls, it saves you the time of going in and selecting each clip individually. So real quickly, I'm going to go in and set each one of these now. After setting the duration of each one of my clips, you'll want to go in and check to see that it plays correctly. The way I got these durations is I actually set and listened to my soundtrack and picked B-roll footage that went along with what was being said by my on-air talent. So let's play it to see how well it works.
Hello, and welcome to Newsbreak. In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the Video Toaster, the Video Toaster Flyer, LightWave 3D, and countless software and hardware accessories. Video Toaster inventor and NewTek president Tim Jennison had this to offer. The event was sponsored by Video Toaster User magazine.
Well, as you can see, all of the cuts played back approximately where I wanted, and it also fit within the timeline that we had previously set up, which was that 9.5 to 10 seconds. Although I will want to do some tweaking to this later to smooth out each one of the transitions, as well as I'm going to want to change the audio, since you notice that all of the audio playing from the B-roll did not match and therefore had a very choppy background. We'll smooth that out later by choosing one clip and using that as the master audio for all of the rest of the B-roll. So right now let's move on, because I want to add in the two interview segments, the first one being Tim Jennison, the founder of NewTek, and the second one being Dick Van Dyke, which was our Hollywood celebrity, which was also mentioned in the ad. So I'm going to simply go in and grab those two clips. The first one happens to be titled Tim Jennison. So we'll bring that up and drop it in, and we'll simply move it into the timeline to position it where it needs to be, and we'll also select the Dick Van Dyke clip at the same time. So after I put my two pieces of interviews in between the talking head footage of my talent, I need to go in and select an in and out point for each one of the clips. I'm going to try to find a piece of the video that makes a complete statement, so let's go ahead and do that. The first piece is Mr. Jennison, and I'm going to go ahead and just select the right arrow keys that are located next to the in point numeric requester, and I'm going to just play a little bit.
A lot of people like Ron, very talented people. Toaster users are marked.
Well, I found a segment where he kind of starts a statement here where he says toaster users. So I'm just going to pull the in point back again to approximately where he begins that, and we'll just play it to sample it.
Toaster users are marked by not only their large numbers, but their creativity and entrepreneurship. They are not ivory tower artists. They are talented people who get things done every day of the week and make money at it.
And that's where I like my ending point. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to grab the out point slider and pull it back into my clip. And he kind of looks like he ended right there, but we'll play it out
and make money at it.
And there's the out point that I want to use. So now I have an in and out point. I'll need to go in now to the fine tune menu and again boost up the audio to 100% so that I can hear what Mr. Jennison is saying. So right now I'm going to go ahead and just play this segment back, and we'll listen to the entire piece.
Toaster users are marked by not only their large numbers, but their creativity and entrepreneurship. They are not ivory tower artists. They are talented people who get things done every day of the week and make money at it.
Well, that's pretty good. I might want to tighten up the end just a little bit and pull this back just a little more. And what I might also want to do is make sure that the audio stays consistent with the endpoints of my video. And I might actually want him to start just a little sooner. So we'll watch his mouth to when his mouth closes to just before it opens again. And watching our program out the whole time. And we'll set our audio segment to the same way again. So we'll go ahead and play to see if this is a little tighter.
Toaster users are marked by not only their large numbers, but their creativity and entrepreneurship. They are not ivory tower artists. They are talented people who get things done every day of the week and make money at it.
Well, there we have a complete statement. This piece is relatively done for the end of our project. So we'll hit continue, and we'll move on to the segment which includes our celebrity, which is Mr. Dick Van Dyke. So I'm going to select controls on this, and we'll listen to Dick's interview and to find an approximate place to come in.
Standalone? I don't know. I really don't know where to go. When you look around at all these great, it's like a candy store. All these great toys. I got my heart on set on a flyer, and of course the 4.0. And I've got a Vertisketch, you know, from Blevins.
Well, he kind of makes a statement sort of in the middle, so I'm going to grab my endpoint and drag it back to about where he begins to make his statement, which I'm going to approximate a couple of seconds in. And he kind of trails off of his statement after he mentions the 4.0, which is somewhere here towards the end. So we'll go ahead and play at the end now.
I've got a Vertisketch, you know.
Well, we don't want to use that segment, so we'll pull it back a little more and listen some more.
Flyer, and of course the 4.0.
Well, he says 4.0, and that kind of ends the statement, so we'll go ahead and use that as our out point. And since we kind of roughed in an in point, let's go ahead and play this.
I really don't know where to go. When you look around at all these great, it's like a candy store. All these great toys. I got my heart on set on a flyer, and of course the 4.0.
After we set the duration of our interview shots and place them between our talking heads, we want to play the end sequence to see how it paces and how our timing is working out. So I'm going to select the clip that introduces Mr. Tim Jennison, that's our talking head, and I'm going to hit play from in the middle of the screen. And now we'll watch and see how the pacing works on our inserted interview segments.
Video toaster inventor and NewTek president Tim Jennison had this to offer.
Toaster users are marked by not only their large numbers, but their creativity and entrepreneurship. They are not ivory tower artists. They are talented people who get things done every day of the week and make money at it.
The event was sponsored by Video Toaster User magazine and drew many longtime toaster professionals, as well as Hollywood celebrities.
I really don't know where to go. When you look around at all these great, it's like a candy store. All these great toys. I got my heart on set on a flyer, and of course the 4.0.
This has been a Newsbreak update. Thanks for watching.
Now that we've checked the ending pacing of our show and it's running approximately the way we want it to, I'm going to go in and set some audio levels on the different clips that we didn't adjust before, because we need to set up some relationships between the background sound and the foreground or our talking head sound. So let's go in and select each one of the clips. First we'll go to our interface and we'll hold down the shift key on the keyboard to select multiple clips, and I'm going to select each one of the insert clips that we put in. I'm also going to select controls from the middle of the screen, or I'm going to use the keyboard equivalent of the F9 key. By pushing the F9 key or hitting controls, it brings up whichever interface that we had selected, whether we were using the quick tune or the fine tune interface. From here I'm going to go down and I'm going to look at the audio volume level. From here, I know that I need to bring this audio volume level down. Also, I'm going to want to add a little bit of a fade, and you'll see that I've gone in earlier and added a slight fade in and fade out. This is a habit that I'm in all of the time, and it's something that you might want to get into as well. But I'm going to go ahead and set the fade in and out on each one of these to approximately 4 frames, and I'm going to select the volume level here, and I'm going to delete out the volume level and bring in about 15%. So I'm going to drop it down so that the natural sound that's included with this clip is much lower than the sound of my on-screen talent. So I'm going to select continue and do that for each one of these clips that comes up. Simply select in the window and enter the value of 15. I'm going to bump the fade up and fade out up to 4 frames each. And I'm going to do this for each and every individual clip that we do. The very last clip I come to is my Flyer Advance main. From here I want it to fade in just for about 2 frames, and I don't want it to fade out at all since I want it to cut in. And you'll notice I've preset the volume level to 100, since this is actually the volume level that carried over when we cloned the original version of this clip at the beginning of this tape. After I've set the individual volume levels, I'm going to go ahead and select both of my interview clips, which were Tim Jennison and Dick Van Dyke. I'm going to select controls and I'm going to go in and I'm going to also check to make sure that their audio levels are at their maximum, because I want to be able to hear Mr. Van Dyke and Mr. Jennison's statements. I'll see that Mr. Jennison's statement has been previously set to 100. However, I haven't set Mr. Van Dyke's statement, which is still at 70. I'll simply grab the slider, or I can click in the numeric entry area and enter 100. I'm also going to leave the fade in and fade out on each one of these gentlemen's statements at 0, since I want them to simply cut in and cut out, and I'll do a little bit of layering as we go on further with my on-screen talent. So we'll say continue, and now we'll do a play of the entire project so that we can listen to hear what the relationship of the volume levels between our B-roll and our on-screen talent and our interviews are. So now that it's ready to play, we'll select OK.
Hello, and welcome to Newsbreak. In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the Video Toaster, the Video Toaster Flyer, LightWave 3D, and countless software and hardware accessories. Video Toaster inventor and NewTek president Tim Jennison had this to offer.
Toaster users are marked by not only their large numbers, but their creativity and entrepreneurship. They are not ivory tower artists. They are talented people who get things done every day of the week and make money at it.
The event was sponsored by Video Toaster User magazine and drew many longtime toaster professionals, as well as Hollywood celebrities.
I really don't know where to go when you look around at all these great, it's like a candy store. All these great toys. I got my heart on set on a flyer, and of course the 4.0.
This has been a Newsbreak update. Thanks for watching.
Well, I'm pretty happy with that. So from this point now, I want to add a few graphic elements to this, since I want to identify my on-screen talent and I want to identify each of my interviewees. I've previously gone ahead and set up a couple of CG elements which are stored in my CG keys. So we'll go there now by selecting NewTek, the CG, and the Keys menu. Down here you'll see that I've set up a couple of previously done flyer key pages, which I'm going to want to go ahead and insert into my project. So I'm going to simply grab the ones that I need to go into this piece and set them into my project. The first piece, I want to key over my opening cut, and I want it to continue to key over the transition, so I'm going to position the key between the two elements. The next one I have is Tim Jennison, so I'll select Flyer Tim Jennison, and I'll drop that key element just behind the Tim Jennison video element. The last one will be the Dick Van Dyke, which I have here as Flyer Advanced DVD for Dick Van Dyke, which we will put in between him and our closing. Now that we have each of the graphic elements positioned where we need to set durations as well as start times for each one of these elements. To do this, simply select the element that you wish, select the Controls key, and go in to select your length and duration. One of the caveats that you need to know regarding flyer key pages, frame store pages, scroll pages, and crawl pages is that they require 1.5 seconds minimum time to load into the buffers. An easy way to work around this is to actually record the output of the buffer and create a flyer clip with these elements keyed over. The easier way of doing this is to simply go into the start time and enter a start time delay that is greater than 1.5 seconds. You'll notice here I've entered 120, which is 1 second and 20 frames, which is about 5 frames more than 1.5 seconds. This will be my starting point for selecting my keys. The next thing I want to do is set a duration or a length for the amount of the key. For this one, I'm going to make a guess that I want it to be on for about 5 seconds. And I'm also going to select fade in and fade out, since I want it to dissolve in and dissolve out. And I'm going to select the fast speed under the speed indicator here for the fade in and fade out, since I want it to come in quickly and I want it to disappear quickly. I'm also going to leave it locked to the end point, since I want it to reference exactly 1 second, 20 frames after the beginning of my video, and then I want it to last for 5 seconds. So right now, before setting anything else, I'm going to go in and check this. I'm going to simply select the first clip that the key will appear upon, and I'm going to want to play from this point. However, at this point, I'm going to want to add one other extra feature, which is located in the Effects directory under Control, and I'm going to use the right Amiga key to toggle back so that you can see this. And we're now back to the PyCon view. I'm going to select the stop hand. The stop hand is what we use to position within our interface, which will allow the flyer to sequence all of the events up to the stop hand, and then we'll stop the flyer. So now I'm going to simply put the stop hand in my sequence, select the first clip, and select a play from. And now I'm going to play this segment just to check the key.
Hello, and welcome to Newsbreak. In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the Video Toaster, the Video Toaster Flyer, LightWave 3D, and countless software and hardware accessories.
You'll note that none of our insert video played since the stop crouton was placed before the insert video. Simply moving the stop crouton to the end of our insert video would allow that entire sequence to play with all of the cuts. Let's watch that now.
Hello, and welcome to Newsbreak. In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the Video Toaster, the Video Toaster Flyer, LightWave 3D, and countless software and hardware accessories.
Now you'll see that the entire sequence played by simply moving the stop crouton. The stop crouton is useful for all kinds of things, especially when you don't want to wait for an extremely long sequence of events to play out, or you don't want to wait for Flyer to look and sequence everything that's in your project. Well, that looked pretty good. So let's go ahead and set up the other two keys. I'm going to do about the same settings for each one of these keys. So I'm going to simply select the new key and hit Controls, go in and set approximately the same duration, about 5 seconds, approximately the same delay, about 1 second, 20 frames. I'm going to fade it in, I'm going to fade it out, and I'm going to do a fast speed. I'm going to do the exact same thing for Mr. Van Dyke. And his duration, about 5 seconds. Start delay about 1 second, 20 frames, a fade in, a fade out, and we'll continue on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move the stop crouton to the end of the chain, and I'm going to select the talking head crouton in front of Mr. Jennison, and we're going to watch the sequence play to see the timing in relation to the key elements over our two talking heads, over our two interview segments. And we'll hit play from, and we'll hit play.
Video Toaster inventor and NewTek president Tim Jennison had this to offer.
Toaster users are marked by not only their large numbers, but their creativity and entrepreneurship. They are not ivory tower artists. They are talented people who get things done every day of the week and make money at it.
The event was sponsored by Video Toaster User magazine and drew many longtime toaster professionals, as well as Hollywood celebrities.
I really don't know where to go when you look around at all these great, it's like a candy store here. All these great toys. I got my heart on set on a flyer, and of course the 4.0.
Now after setting the duration of those keys and playing it to see that it worked, the next thing we're going to want to do is add some of the real-time effects that come with the Toaster Flyer system. For that we need to go to the effects directory, and I'm going to toggle back to the icon so that I can see the shape of the effect and how it will actually affect my video. Right now I'm just going to throw a couple up into the interface. I'm going to throw up a dissolve. I'm going to throw up a pull off. And just for now, I'll probably go down and grab a trajectory. I'll probably go with something that pulls on, and I'll just drop that into the interface. You'll notice I dropped them into the bottom of my screen. That's because I'm not sure exactly where I want to position these yet. I do know I will be using all of these effects, and we'll probably go back and pick a few more. But right now, these are good enough for me just to throw up. First thing I'm going to do is grab the dissolve. And I know I want to dissolve out of the last piece of video of my cutaways into my new piece of video with my on-screen talent. So I'm just going to drop the dissolve in there, and I know that I want it to be a quick dissolve, so I'm going to select the fast speed. The fast speed is probably just a little bit faster than I want. And one of the caveats you should be aware of is that the toaster flyer wants to see even numbered effects. In other words, it doesn't want to see a transition that's 15 frames long. It would prefer to see a transition that is either 16 or 14 frames long, because the flyer works on what is called a D2 color frame, which is actually 4 fields of reference. You've noticed as you've been adjusting the in and out points on your clips that they go up in increments of 2, which is equivalent to the D2 color frame, which is 2 frames or 4 fields. After setting this to a variable of about 16, I know I'm going to want to use it there. I'm going to probably want to use it a couple of more times in here. I'm not sure. So the thing to do is to leave the effect highlighted and to simply select the play from and check to see how the effect is working between these two pieces of video. What this will do by selecting the effect and play from is it will play back the last 3 seconds of the preceding clip and transition you into the clip that you want to go to. So we'll just check that out right now.
Countless software and hardware accessories. Video toaster inventor and NewTek president Tim Jennison had this to offer.
Toaster users are marked by...
Well, I kind of like that, so I'm going to duplicate that and use it again somewhere in my project. So what I'm going to do is simply leave that crouton selected and select clone from the center screen, which is going to give me an exact copy of the previous effect. For that, I might probably just dump it in front of the previous set of effects. I'm going to move my stop icon up into this area because I only want to see the beginning of this transition into this clip, transition into the center clip, and just check to see that that timing of those effects is correct. So I'm going to select the dissolve that I want it to play from and select the play from icon in the center of my interface and select OK.
LightWave 3D and countless software and hardware accessories. Video toaster inventor and NewTek president Tim Jennison had this to offer.
That's working approximately the way I want it to. So now I'm just going to drop a couple of these other effects into positions where I think that they'll be of use to me. So we'll drop, we'll drop this in about here. And we'll just move our stop icon to the end and drop in a few effects. Now that I've added a few more effects to my project and checked it a couple of times to see how well it plays back, I'm going to analyze what I've done here a little bit for you quickly. At the beginning of the interface, we start with our opening clip. We have a key that lasts over the duration of our secondary main clip. We go into some cuts for the video inserts. We dissolve out from the last 2 to begin our effects. We go into the next segment of our talking head, which introduces our first interview, which is a statement. We use an effect to get into the statement. We use a key to tell us who this person is. We then move to another effect, which brings us back to our talking head host again, and another effect brings in yet another one of our interview pieces, an identifying graphic to identify that, yet another effect to bring us out. Now we need to go back and add some of the interesting features, which is basically our animated opening title with a music bed, and we need to add the over-the-shoulder special effects that you saw at the finished piece at the beginning of this tape. So let's go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to go in and select the area where I have my animation piece, which is on video A on my system, and I've pre-rendered this clip. So I'm going to simply drag the clip up, and how I did that was I rendered it in LightWave as IFF frames, and then used the IFF to clip AREX that's located in the editor subdirectory of your AREX directory. And I'm going to simply position it there at the beginning. I know I'm going to want the exact same logo again at the end, so I'm going to simply clone it right now and move it to the end of my project. Now that I have this set up, I need to add a couple of other interesting elements. For example, I will probably end up starting my project in black and finishing to black. So I'm going to go to my NewTek directory, my FrameStore directory, and pick out a black FrameStore that I created earlier, and simply drop that into my project as well. I'm going to clone it at the beginning and simply drop its clone down at the end of my project. I now have the layout of my entire project. Now it's time to move on and do some of the special effects. So I need to add some audio, a music track to the beginning of this. So I'm going to go to my audio drive where I've pre-recorded a bunch of different audio tracks, And I'm going to pick the one that has the news theme that I chose specifically for this, which is called News Guy. And I'm going to drop it in here before the actual clip that I want it to play under. And the reason I'm choosing this before this clip is I actually want the beat of the music to start exactly in time when we cut into my animation sequence. So I'm going to select the controls crouton on the audio clip, and we're going to listen to it a little bit and find the first beat. There's the first beat of the music, and now we'll back it up until that starts again. And we'll just inch up, and we hear the first note. And right about there is my in point that I'm going to want to use. And just to check it, we'll hit the play button. So that starts relatively at the beginning of my music piece that I want. The next thing I need to do is shorten the music piece down, and I'm going to pay attention to the length as I'm adjusting this down so that I have approximately a piece that's long enough to cover my entire animation and give me a little bit of overlap that'll go into my first shot of my on-air talent. So I'm going to say continue here, but before I do that, I want to go to the fine-tune panel, and I want to set up some parameters. The first thing I want here is I want my volume level set to 100. I'm going to leave my delay time open right now because I'm going to come back and set that in relationship to my front black crouton. I'm going to set a fade in of approximately 4 frames, and for a fade out I'm going to do about 2 seconds and 20 frames. I'm going to set a fade out for this duration, and I'm going to check this again with a play. So that gives me a nice smooth sort of a ramped fade out. Now that I have this clip set up approximately the way I want it, I need to check to see what the delay time is going to be. So the first thing I need to do is select continue to save all of the change settings that I made to that interface, and select the black crouton at the beginning because I need to see what the duration of this crouton is in order to set the delay for the next crouton. So I'm going to select the controls and notice that it's set to the default length of 3 seconds. I'll say continue. I know that I need to delay my music piece by at least 3 seconds in order for it to stop at the same time as the beginning of my animation segment. So what I'm going to do now also is I'm going to go back to the music clip. I'm going to select controls, and we're going to take the start time and give it 2 seconds and 26 frames so that our 4-frame fade up starts just a little bit before we get into our animation piece. So I'll say continue. I'll go to the news logo that I have here. I'll check to see that my duration's about 720, which is fine. And we'll say continue, which gives me just about 3 seconds on him and, as it comes in. So what I'm going to do is move the stop icon up now to the end, actually to the end of my cut segment, which would be all the way down here. And I'm going to select play from the beginning, which is just the regular play, since I want to see how all of this paces together. And we'll hit OK.
Hello, and welcome to Newsbreak. In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the video toaster, the video toaster flyer, LightWave 3D, and countless software and hardware accessories.
Well, that worked, yet the timing wasn't quite right on the music. So what I need to do is make some adjustments. I could select the actual crouton that I want to affect, which will be the music clip, and I could actually select controls, or I can hold down the control key on the keyboard, which activates the quick adjust. And you'll notice here in my interface that I have an in and out point listed on the upper right side of the screen. The left button controls the in point for my music, and the right mouse button controls the out point for my music. And since the music was just about 2 or 3 seconds too long, I'm just going to roughly drag this down by holding down the right mouse button And let me readjust my volume here. And I'm holding down the control key, and I'm going to readjust the mouse volume down here about 3 seconds. And again, we'll do another play from the beginning and check out the timing of our music in relationship to our opening animation and our opening talking head segment.
Hello, and welcome to Newsbreak. In Los Angeles, California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo. The event offered the latest in video toaster and LightWave 3D technology. Many were on hand for training and demonstrations for the video toaster, the video toaster flyer, LightWave 3D, and countless software and hardware accessories.
Well, that worked out pretty well. I kind of like the way that fade down happens, and it works in time with our opening segment with our on-air talent. Now, because of the nature of nonlinear editing with Flyer, if you decide that you don't like any one of the clips here, you're always free to go back in and replace it with another clip. After looking at the playback of the last one, I decided that I really don't like one of these clips in here, and I'm going to replace it with one of the other pieces of B-roll stock that I have. So to do that, I simply need to go to the area on my drives where I have this footage and select the piece of footage that I want to use. And I believe it was this one, and I'll bring it in, and I'm just going to dump it in beside it for right now because I want to match the approximate duration in video time with the previous video time, since I like the pacing of what's happening now. To do this, I'm going to select the clip that I want to replace, go to the controls menu, and take a mental note of the duration of this clip, 1 second and 12 frames. Then I'm going to go in, select my second clip, select the controls for it, and begin to scan through the clip to find a segment of the video that I want to use. So when I get to the segment of video that I want to use, that looks kind of good right about there, and we'll drag the out point down. And the key thing that I'm doing here is that I'm making the duration between the two of these elements 1 second, 12 frames in order to replace my existing element. I'm also going to do something a little different here, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key, which is going to allow me to move the whole thing in time, keeping that 1 second, 12 frame relationship. And what I want to get is I want to get the effect moving in and having it replaced. So we'll just check the clip right now.
Drop and drag it in between.
And he simply drops and drags it in. That works approximately the way I wanted it to. So I'm going to select the stop button. I'm going to go to fine tune now and check to see that my fine tune menu is where I want it to be. I'll also note that I need to change the volume level down here to 15 to match the other clips that we had done. And I also want to set my fade in to 4 frames and my fade out to 4 frames. And I want to keep the audio and video at approximately the same area. We'll select continue, and then I'm going to select the clip and simply drag it over and overwrite the previous clip. Now that that is done, I have my sequence set up the way I want it to cut. The only thing left to do at this point is to add the special effects for the over the shoulder and to add music to the end. So right now let's bring the music piece to the end, and we'll simply select our music piece. We'll clone our music piece so that we have the exact same piece of music, and we'll simply drag that down and position it so that it also starts at the beginning in relationship to our title graphic. One of the other things I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to go into the music end piece, and I want to use the music end segment. And since both my opening animation and my closing animation are the exact same duration, I can assume that this duration will remain the same for the closing music. So what I'm going to do is hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, and by holding down the Shift key, I'll maintain the duration between the in and out point on the interface, and I'm going to simply click and hold down with the left mouse button on the out point and drag this down to the end of my music. And you'll see I have a rather nice kind of a music piece here. I'm also going to change the fade out on this. I'm going to change this piece now to a fade out of about 24 frames, just a little bit less than 1 second. And I'm going to change my fade in so that it fades in double the times, about 8 frames. And this will be my end music. Actually, for this one, I might actually have it build a little slower, so we'll make it 1 second in 8 frames. So after we've set the fade-ins, we'll need to go back here for the clone of the piece and reset our start time to 0. Since we want this to start with the beginning exactly of the piece, and we want it to pick up from the center of this. So we'll simply select Continue. We'll select the video element of our on-screen talent just before the animation piece, and we'll check the timing by selecting Play From. And we'll play it.
This has been a Newsbreak update. Thanks for watching.
I'm fairly happy with that, although I could go back and do some finite tweaking. I'm also going to want to add a transition from the last of my stand-up on-screen talent to my ending transition, since I don't have a real transition to take us out of there. I'm going to go to my effects directory, and I'm going to pick one of the wipes that we have here. And one of the ones I found that I like an awful lot is called Wipe Implode, which I'm going to simply drag in between the two positions, and I'm going to set it for its fastest speed, which is 20 frames, since I want it to happen as quickly as possible. Now that I have that set up, I'm going to go ahead and select the exact same piece of video again, or I can select the wipe, and I'm actually going to select the wipe since it'll play the last 3 seconds of my closing video, since I don't want to sit through the entire piece, and I'm going to select Play From. And we'll play this.
Update. Thanks for watching.
Well, the effect wasn't quite what I was looking for. I actually wanted something to close it out, so I actually feel that this effect would probably be better transitioning out of my animation. So I'm going to simply move it in the timeline, and I'll select another effect, which we'll put in to take us out from our on-screen talent to our 3D animation. So I'm just going to take another trajectory effect here, and oh, this one looks pretty good. It looks like a trajectory in of some sort, and it's called a fly in top right, and we'll simply drop that in, select controls for it. We can see that it's set to a fast speed duration, and then its duration is set to 26 frames, which will work fine for what we're trying to do right now. Again, I will select this one since I only want to see the 3 seconds of the previous video clip, and I'll hit Play From, and we'll see how we sequence our out.
Update. Thanks for watching.
Well, basically our music ended at the appropriate time, although our effect didn't come in time to our black to time with the music. What we can do here is we can lengthen the duration of the effect, lengthen the duration of the music clip, or shorten the duration of the video clip, which will probably be the easiest thing to do. So we'll select the video clip, we'll hold down the control key, which brings up the quick adjust, and holding down the right mouse button, I'll simply adjust the out point of this by approximately 1 second. Now I'm going to go ahead and select Play From, the effect immediately before the animation piece, and select Play From.
Update. Thanks for watching.
So now that I've checked all my sequencing and I'm fairly happy with the results, I need to go in now and add the high-end over-the-shoulder effects that I talked about earlier. Unfortunately, the toaster doesn't allow this in real time, and the way to do this is to use the built-in 3D animation software called LightWave. LightWave can allow you to do any number of effects that are even cleaner than any of the real-time effects. The only penalty is that you have to render them. So let's go into LightWave and build our over-the-shoulder graphic element. After entering LightWave, you want to go into the modeler, so select modeler in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and when you get into modeler, you want to select the box tool. And we're simply going to draw out a box using the background grid at the default setting, 4 squares wide by 3 squares high. This approximates the 4:3 aspect ratio of the TV screen that we're using. Just to make sure that it's approximately the correct aspect ratio, we're going to select numeric, and we're going to see that we have in the X dimension a -1 meter to a +1 meter, and our grid is 500 millimeters, which means it's exactly 4 units across. And our Y, we have a -500 millimeter and a +1 meter, with the 500 millimeter grid size means it's 3 grid squares high, which is 4:3, which is what we were looking for. So I'm going to simply say OK, which brings back the shape of the box. And now I either need to click on Make or hit the Return key on the keyboard to make this into a box. The next thing I'm going to want to do to this box is I'm going to want to center it. So I'm going to go to the Custom pull-down menu and select Center from one of my custom tools. What Center does is it allows my box to be centered to the origin point within Modeler, which is also the pivot point of my box within Layout. I'm going to deselect the box tool, and you'll see that it snaps to show me my box in the interface. So after centering it, I want to deselect my box, and then I want to go and I want to extrude it. So I want to select Multiply from the top menu and select Extrude. I want to click down the extrusion pointer in the Z-axis or the face view because I want to extrude it out along its depth or along the positive Z-axis. I'm going to simply drag the handle back just enough to give it a little bit of depth, because what I'm going to make here is basically a frame for my video to sit in. Once I get the approximate depth that I want, again I'm going to simply select Make from the pull-down menu or hit the Return key on the keyboard, and it's going to make this into a 3D box. By selecting the space bar on the keyboard, I'm able to deactivate the extrusion tool, and it leaves me with a box. Now I'm going to activate the display panel, and in the display I'm going to select a static solid object that we can now rotate at a 3D perspective so you can see the changes as I make them to the box. The next thing we want to do is go into the polygon mode at the bottom of the screen, and we want to use the right mouse button to draw a lasso around the edge of the front polygon of our box. You'll notice that if we select the correct polygon, that only one polygon is selected down here at the bottom of the screen, and that the surface normal extends in the negative Z-axis, which is telling us that we're looking straight on or directly at this polygon. Now we want to use the bevel tool, which is also located under the multiply menu, under the sweep submenu, and it's called bevel. Selecting bevel brings up the interface to which you'll add numeric values. This is important to pay attention to your grid size here, because this is going to be the relationship of the values and the measurement of the values that you're going to choose to enter here. The first thing I want to do is I want to give a slight edge to my frame, so I want to do a little bit of an inset to the bevel. So for right now I'm going to guesstimate that it's about 50 millimeters, or half of the stock setting, and I don't want to do any kind of a shift since I want it to just simply give me a frame that insets. So I'm going to enter 0 for shift value and hit return. You'll see here, and let me zoom in by using the period key on the keyboard, that it cut in a nice edge on my frame. Not quite as much as I was looking for, no problem. You simply select undo at the bottom, hit the B key on the keyboard for bevel again, and change the value of the inset to something higher. We'll try 75 millimeters, and we'll select OK. This gave me the approximate frame edge that I wanted to see in my object by looking in the upper window. And you'll notice that the center polygon is still selected. So now what I want to do that I have my inset set appropriately is I need to shift this polygon in to give depth to my frame and an edge to the frame. Again, I'm going to use the bevel tool by selecting B on the keyboard. This time I'm going to set my inset to about 10, since I want a slight edge, 10 millimeters. And I'm going to set my shift, and looking at the side view here and noticing that each one of these squares is approximately 500 millimeters, I can guesstimate that this is about 200 millimeters. So I could say that my shift could be a negative, since I want to pull this into the object, of about 125 millimeters. The 10 millimeter inset is going to give a slight edge to the inset of the bevel. So we'll say OK, and you'll notice that it sucked it back in and gave me kind of a flat plane. So basically I get the feeling that I have a box or a frame that's inset around the window. At this point, it's a good idea to select this polygon and give it a name. Since it's already selected, go to the polygon menu and surface and give this polygon a name. What we'll want to do is rename it and call it Video Canvas 1. Especially if you plan on using multiple canvas surfaces for video elements, you want to make sure that you give them a slightly unique name, and the easiest way to do that is to append a number to the end and simply apply this to that surface. Now what I'm going to do is deselect all of the polygons, select W, which brings up the polygon statistics from the keyboard shortcut, and notice that I have a total of 14 polygons and that 13 of them have the default surface. I need to change this default surface and call it my frame, so I'm going to simply select the plus key, which will select all of the polygons except the one we just named and allow me to give them each an individual name. So I'll select surface and we'll call this our video frame. And since it's for device number 1, we'll call it number 1. And apply. That's all there is to it. Now go to the Objects menu, select Save As, navigate your file requester until you reach your Objects directory, and save it out as video canvas 1.lwo for LightWave object, and hit return. That's all you have to do. Now we want to go back to layout. Now that we're in layout, we need to load our video canvas object, and we also need to load a flyer clip as a reference that we want to use this video canvas object in. So the first thing we're going to do here in layout is go to the Objects menu, select Load Object, and load our video canvas object. You'll see that the object loads to the center of the frame, and we want to select the camera view so that we can see the relationship of this object to everything else in the frame. You'll see that our little video frame gives us exactly a 4:3 aspect ratio and gives us a little bit of detail work so that we can add a unique surface to this and change the surface or edge of our frame. So what I'm going to do here now is simply select the camera from the edit mode and hit the return key to create a keyframe for the camera at this position. I'm then going to select the object and I'm going to deactivate the X and Y for the moment and simply move this back in the Z plane to give it approximately the size that I want. Since I know it's going to fill approximately 1/4 of my screen, I can shrink it down to that size. Now I'm going to change and turn off the Z and turn back on X and Y and position it into the upper corner position. One of the other things I need to do is I need to create a keyframe for this object once I've moved it. And again, this is just a rough position. So I'm going to hit the return key twice to create a keyframe at position 0 for this object. Now what I need to do is turn on a few separate little options within LightWave in order for me to position all of the rest of my elements correctly. Under the options screen, you will see that I have the ability to show safe areas, which I want to turn on, and the ability to show a background image, which I want to turn on as well. And I'm going to select Continue. Now what I can see here in my interface is I have safe area action lines, which you'll see that the inside of my video clip is going to sit. So I have the approximate position of where I need my over-the-shoulder graphic plate to be. This is a good thing, but yet I still want to use the imagery that I'm going to use to put this clip over as a reference. So I want to go to my Images panel and select Load Flyer Clip. Then I want to navigate to my flyer drive and to the directory on the flyer drive that has the elements that I plan on using. So since I know that my first clip is called main01, I'm going to select main01 as my first flyer clip. The first one that I have that comes in is a position of the Toaster Expo logo. So I'm going to select Load Flyer Clip again, and I'm going to go down here and select the one that is labeled Toaster Expo and say OK. I now have two clips loaded in, and you'll see that both of them are reflected here in the information area of the current image. Now that I have this, I'll need to set a first and last frame. And if you've gone into LightWave this far without checking to see which frames you want, you'll need to go back into the switcher, as I'm doing right now. Don't worry, because LightWave stays active. And you'll want to go in and check to see when you want the frame to come in. So I'm going to check the clip, which is main 1, and I'm going to check the in and out points that I'm using for this clip. And all I'm going to pay attention to here is the video segment, since that's all I'm worried about rendering. You'll notice that the first segment I have is 9 seconds and 18 frames long. That I'm going to obviously need to have my video frame element for a good portion of this time. I'm going to know that the in point here is the video that I want to use from that side, and I'm going to know that the out point here is where the video is going to cut off. So you'll want to keep a notepad handy and write down this information. So for this first clip, the first information that I want to write down is my in point for the entire clip is at 524, 5 seconds, 24 frames, and that my out point for the video on this clip is 15 seconds and 10 frames, which is reflected here in the in and out points of the video line of information. What I also want to do here is I want to move this video clip down, and I want to play this in real time so I can approximate where I want this over-the-shoulder graphic to come in. Now, after viewing this a few times, I've noticed that at approximately 2.5 to 3 seconds into the clip, my lower third graphic that's keyed in real time by the CG goes away. At about this time, I want to add the over-the-shoulder graphic. So we're going to listen to the video anyways, to the audio track, to see what we can find out as to where a good point for this element to come in would be. So I'm going to simply play.
California today, thousands attended Video Toaster Expo.
Well, at approximately 10 seconds and 10 frames, I noticed that my camera has panned over and he mentions Video Toaster Expo. So this is approximately where I'm going to want my new clip to come in. So I'm going to want to take note that I want the video element in at 10 seconds and 10 frames, since that's where my out point clip is right now. The key element here is that I'm now going to select cancel, which means that all of the changes that we just made to that clip to get in and out points were not reflected in the clip, that the original settings of the clip are intact, yet we got the valuable number information that we need to enter into LightWave. So now I'm going to go back to LightWave, but before I do that, I'm going to go to my project files, and I need to bring up the Toaster Expo clip that I'm going to use. So I need to navigate to the position on my drives where I will find that clip. And here's my Toaster Expo animation clip. I'm going to simply drop this into the project behind because I want to check the in and out points for this clip as well. And noting the distance between those two clips, I'll note that the overall distance of that clip is approximately 9.5 seconds, or 9 seconds and 16 frames. So I'll know that I need to have this animation approximately the same duration. And one of the things that you should note here, that's a caveat, is that you'll want to bump the seconds integer, or the first seconds number, and let me pull that up again. Here it says 5 seconds, 24 frames. Here it says 15 seconds, 10 frames. You'll want to bump the in point up 1 second. So the actual number that you'll want to pay attention to is 4 seconds and 24 frames. And for the out point, the number you'll want to pay attention to is 16 seconds and 10 frames. The reason you're doing this is because the flyer defaults to a 1 second indentation for both in point and out point. And you want to make it easier for you to pull these elements when you go to replace them. So by adding a second to the beginning and adding a second, by subtracting a second from the beginning and adding a second to the end, you end up with a clip when you pull it up from your files bin into your project that fits exactly in the position that the previous clip did. Because one of the things you should note is that the flyer will not pay attention to the audio as it's using the clip in LightWave. So you'll want to have these numbers down so that you can replace these numbers with an audio-only clip, and we'll do that by using the Process Clip screen. We can do that now by simply selecting Process Clip and noting the numbers that our audio segment runs. Our audio segment runs from 6 seconds and 12 frames to 24 seconds and 26 frames. By selecting Process Clip, I get a new clip cut screen. Here I'm going to want to enter a new name for the clip, which I'll call it OTS.1 for my over-the-shoulder clip 1. I'm going to put that it's audio only in the comment section. I'm also going to change the destination to the audio only or my Flyer C drive. And I'm going to type in the numbers that I just wrote down, which was 6 seconds and 12 frames for the in point, and 24 seconds and 26 frames for the out point. And this is the segment of audio I want to use. Since it's an audio only, I don't need to include video and audio, so I'm going to select audio only from the bottom requester. And now I'm going to literally strip just the audio only segment from this over-the-shoulder shot. We'll select perform and do that now. You'll notice that it already has a clip that's named new name. That's okay. Simply change the name of the clip and it's called OTS.1. Make sure you hit the enter key, which is what I forgot to do, which is why it brought up the requester. Don't worry if you forget, because the requester will always pop up and tell you to rename the clip to something unique. Now what I want to do, that I've set up my in and out points that I need for my over-the-shoulder clip, I want to look at the video that's going to be in the over-the-shoulder segment. So I'm going to select the clip that I pulled up into the back end of my project and select the controls screen for it. Here I'm going to play this clip and see that its approximate duration is 9:04. And I know that I need to add 1 second to either end of this, so I'm going to simply drag this out to the full extension. Knowing this, that it's 11:02 is my entire duration of this clip, that is the maximum duration I can set my animation for. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into continue here. I'm going to go back to LightWave. And now I'm going to go to the beginning of my clips for my images. I'm going to select the first clip, which is Flyer Advanced Main Clip. And I'm going to set my endpoint here. Unfortunately, at this time, you cannot simply click in the area and type in the number for the Flyer clip. You have to use the quick adjust sliders here at either side. And the first one you want to set to the beginning of your clip, which for this one was 424. And that's set. And I want to set the out point, which will be at 1610. So we'll simply drag this down. Until it reads about 1610. Now you'll notice that it has an odd duration down here. That's okay. Simply back off on the slider until you have an even duration set to the approximate time that you want. Now, if we remember correctly, looking at our other clip, it has a maximum duration of 11:03. So what we want to do is we want to change this so that it's 11:04, and now I need to go back and bump my out point so that both of these are set to 11:04. It's often easier to do this off the out point than it is to do it from the in point, since your in point is already preset for the cuts within your project. So now that I have the duration set for both of my clips to exactly the same, I need to convert 11 seconds and 4 frames into 30 frames per second, or how many frames I'm going to need to render in LightWave. The easy thing to do is to multiply the seconds times 30, which will give me a total of 330 plus 4 frames, which is a total of 334. I'll now go and set my scene for the last frame to be 334. After setting the end frame for our scene count, we got to make sure that it's set to an even frame. since, as I said again, the flyer works on an even number of frames, or a D2 color frame, you must make sure that your clip that this animation will be made from has an even amount of frames. The next thing we want to do is set a surface for our canvas object and set something up for our background. So we want to go to the Surfaces panel, and we want to select Video Frame first, and we'll just load one of the generic surfaces that comes stock with LightWave. And for this one, I'll select the gold surface, and there it is. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go in now and I'm going to tweak the surface color just a little bit, since the first one I opened up with had sort of a bluish kind of metallic frame. All I need to do is go in here and select some of the colors and simply drag the sliders down until I get an approximate value of blue that I want to use. Once I have that value of blue, I can check that on my program output monitor from my flyer system. While I have the Surfaces panel open, if I hit the Help key, you'll notice that a smaller keyboard shortcut menu opens up that relates to only keyboard shortcuts that are available in this Surfaces menu. The one that's most notable is the S key, which will render out a slight small sample of whatever is on my video frame to my program output monitor. So whatever this surface is will go out to your program monitor. The next thing you want to do is select Video Canvas, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending on how many of these you want to play with. You want to go to Surface Color, and you want to select the T for texture. You want to use Planar Image Map. You want to select whichever video clip you want to include on the inside of the video. You want to select the Z-axis and automatic sizing, as automatic sizing will automatically fit the 4x3 image that is the flyer clip into our 4x3 plane that is here, and select Use Texture. From here you want to go to the luminosity channel and set luminosity to 100%. This will make your flyer clip stand out as though it were evenly lit across the entire surface. Really important for when using video clips to use this feature. And the next thing you want to do is select Continue. After this, we want to go to the Effects panel, and we're going to select Image Compositing. And for our background image, we want to select the flyer main clip, or whichever clip of video that we want this little over-the-shoulder graphic element to be in front of. And then we're going to say Continue. And then we're going to say Continue again. After a slight pause as the machine loads the current frame from the flyer clip, you will see something that looks a lot like this interface, with whatever your clip is in the background with your foreground object element superimposed over it. The key here is to check to see that your background video lines up with your foreground animated object's motion. So the way to do that is to simply move the slider at the bottom of the screen to get an approximation of where this over-the-shoulder graphics is going to be in relationship to the rest of the elements in the background video. You'll note that it takes an exorbitantly long amount of time for the flyer to access each frame from the clip and update it into your background screen. There is a workaround, however, to this situation that will save you considerable amounts of time. The way to do this is very simple. After you've set up this scene, don't take any more time from the scene, but go in and save this scene. Since this will be your master scene file, we'll call this ots1.scn for scene, since we want to identify this as the over-the-shoulder number 1 scene that we're going to be working on. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and just clear all of the objects from this scene. And you'll see that all it leaves me with is my background video. There's nothing else in here except my background video. At this point, what I want to do is I want to go in and make a wireframe preview for the entire duration of my animation. After the wireframe preview is completed rendering, you need to go back to your interface screen and you need to select Save Preview from the pull-down menu. Save Preview will present you with a requester and simply give it a name. We'll call this ots1.prv. Again, we're adding the 3-dot extension for preview so that we can remember later what this is. And hit Save. It'll take a couple of seconds. After it's finished saving the preview, you want to go back to the Effects panel and simply remove the main clip in the background. And for that matter, you can even clear out the entire scene if you wish. But what we want to do is go to the options panel and select, instead of our background image, we want to see our preview in the background and say continue. And now we want to go to the load preview from the preview pull down and load the preview that we just saved in as our background image. Now you'll see that I have the preview, which gives me a view of what my actual clip is going to look like happening in the background so that I can position my animation over it. By ending preview at this point, you'll notice as I move the slider on the bottom, I actually have the preview in my background plate so that I can see it in relationship to the rest of the video that I'm working with and can position my video clip over the background. All I need to do at this point is simply go back in, load the object back into the screen, that is my video canvas, position this object in relationship to the rest of my frame, and I might want to position it back just a little more, and we'll go ahead and position this there and up just a little more. After you've positioned the video frame or your over-the-shoulder graphic element in relationship to your background video frame, it's now okay to begin to animate this clip. So for the first example, which these elements are from, I did a simple dissolve up. What I'm going to show you is how I did the second example, which is how I had the frame actually tumble into frame. But we're going to use the first example's elements because you can use any video clips and any elements on these two, not just the ones that I'm showing. Use your imagination. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to figure approximately that we want our video clip to end up at this position. So we're going to enter a keyframe value in relationship to the end of our animation. So for right now, I'm simply going to put in 240 since I want it to hang there. The total animation length was 334. I want it to stay there for about 3 seconds, which is about 90 frames, which is where we are. You'll see that I have a keyframe position there that goes from the center to this position. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this object back along the Z-plane, and I'm going to set a keyframe for it here at about half the distance, about 120, and then I'm going to move it back further again in the Z-plane, and I'm going to move it up a little bit and out of my frame, out of my view. And create a keyframe for it there at frame 60 since I want it to hold for 2 seconds before it comes in. And then I'm going to create another keyframe in the exact same position at frame 0. So you'll see that I have roughly a loop that comes in. At this point, I could set up a rotation in the pitch to have my element tumble in. So what I'll do is I'll go in and select rotate and select the numeric requester and go to the pitch and set a -360-degree angle for the pitch and create a keyframe for it at frame 0. And I'll create another keyframe by pushing the enter key on the keyboard at frame 60. And we'll just do a test preview animation here. We'll make a preview and we'll do it in bounding box mode from frame 1 through 334. After we've created the preview, we'll want to check our preview. So we'll go to play preview from the pull down menu and simply check the motion. You'll notice that we had a slight offset in our animation. I still want the tumble to end at our middle keyframe, but from the middle keyframe I want the rest of my graphic element to come in and straight and fill its position on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the very last keyframe, which is frame 240 on the interface. I'm going to select spline controls and turn on linear. And we'll say OK. And we'll make another wireframe preview. That's just a simple bounding box. The ability to use flyer clips as background image sequences in LightWave and to use them as image sequences on surfaces gives you the utmost and creative power to create your own digital video effects, your own wipes, your own transitions, your own over-the-shoulder graphics. You can animate anything. You can composite spaceships over your favorite fishing photos. Whatever turns you on. You can have a lot of fun with this, so experiment and try different things. This looks like it's almost done, so we'll go ahead and hit escape, because since all we want to do is check the motion up to a point, and I'll hit escape to stop it. We'll go down to the preview window and select play preview, and we'll simply play it through one time in real time to see how it works. And it tumbles in, holds the tumble, comes up, and fills the screen. There is one simple way to create an effect. You'll notice from the example that I did a bunch of different kinds of effects. You can use the morph function with multiple objects as long as they have different surface names to actually have the surfaces morph from one video canvas object to another video canvas object with a completely different set of clips as well as different surfaces. So you can truly create anything that you can dream up. Just experiment a little bit with it. So now that we've created this, it's time to go and render. So to render, you need to go back to your effects panel, select background composite, make sure that the background clip that you want to have in your background is still selected here. As long as you haven't changed the scene or changed the object, the surface settings will remain intact that you set up previously with the image mapped on it and the outside frame's color. Now it's time to render your animation. Before we do that, we need to go to the record panel and select the type of animation or image file that we want to save it out as. We have a lot of different choices here. We can choose to save it as an animation, and you'll see a list of animation types, and we can save it out as individual RGB files, in which you'll see a list of RGB file types, as well as we can save it out as an internal video toaster image, otherwise known as a frame store. You're going to note that some of these have more options that are not seen here, and if you're only seeing as many options that are here, you need to go and add a couple of plugins to your LightWave. Don't worry, they come with LightWave, and the way to load them is to simply go to the options panel in layout, select add plugins at the bottom of the page, and navigate to your plugins directory, which is located here in the interface. Go to the LightWave area, and you want to load all 4 of these plugins. The first one is called Clip Saver, and we'll load that. The next one we load is called HIP Load. The next one you need to load is HIP Save. And the final one you need to load is the Video Filter. After you load the plugins, you want to go to LightWave and quit the program so that LightWave will write these changes that you've made to its config file so that they'll be available for you the next time you load LightWave and want to do something like this. Now when we go back to the record panel, we'll see underneath the animation type that we've added 3 new types, most notably flyer clip, flyer film, and flyer at 25 frames per second. The easy way to save out this animation is to simply select flyer clip from this pull-down menu after you've loaded the plugin. Select Save Animation and pick one of your flyer drives and give it a proper name. I'm going to select Cancel since that's not what I want to do. Although it requires a little more work, the other technique is to use Save RGB Images and to save them as the internal 24-bit IFF. The quality is much better in my opinion, and the beauty of using this technique is that if your system should crash during the night, you only have to start your animation over from the last frame that completed rendering before the crash. Once you've rendered as RGB images or as your flyer clip, if you're using the RGB image technique, you'll need to go back out to the switcher and the editor interface once the animation is complete. You'll want to go to the Project Files menu, and you'll want to go to your Rex Tools. Here you will use IFF to clip, which you will then follow the on-screen requesters to the Amiga DOS drive that you save the RGB images to, enter the first frame, the last frame, and the quality mode, and the flyer will automatically compile your sequential IFF images into a flyer clip. Now I need to show you how to replace the newly rendered elements inside your project. You now need to combine this new effects clip with the audio clip that you separated from your original working clip. So what I'm going to do is show you how to do that right now. The first thing you need to do is go back to your interface and find where you stored the particular clip. In this case, I have it stored here on my Flyer A drive, which happens to be the one with the toaster overlay. The next thing I want to do, since I've named this OTS2, I've also named the audio track OTS2, so I want to go to my audio drive and find the over-the-shoulder number 2 audio bit, which is labeled OTS2, which I'm going to simply drop in line right behind my clip. If you set this up correctly, that's all the adjustments you'll have to do. Simply select the original clip that you used as a position marker in your project and delete it from the project. Then all you have to do is play from, so I'm going to go to my effects drawer now. I'm going to select the controls. I'm going to simply drop this in right after the Tim Jennison cut, and I'm going to select the effect just before my special effect over the shoulder shot, and I'm going to select play from.
And hardware accessories. Video toaster inventor and NewTek president Tim Jennison had this to offer.
Toaster users are marked by not only their large numbers, but their creativity and entrepreneurship. They are not ivory tower artists. They are talented people who get things done every day of the week and make money at it.
Well, there you have it. That's how we build over-the-shoulder graphics. Use this technique to create any kind of special effect that you need video or a graphic 3D element to fly over a video clip. Use LightWave and your Flyer combination. You'll find it's more than powerful enough to do whatever job you're asking it to do. One other tip you should know about is that during sequencing, sometimes the Flyer will exhibit some anomalies, such as garbled audio playback or a bizarre insert of video that doesn't belong where you think it should belong. What you can do is you can perform an online Flyer reset or Flyer initialization, and it is a keyboard shortcut combination with a mouse click on the interface. The keyboard combination is holding down the Control key, the Shift key, and the Alt key, and then going to your interface and clicking on the Stop key. What this does is performs a Flyer reinitialization, which is basically like the reset button. And there you have it. A little creativity, a little bit of planning, and you can come up with some really truly amazing and wonderful video effects that will rival even the high quality expensive DVE machines that are out there. Until next time, take care.